Houston Cougars, a furious comeback to knock off Duke and advance to the national championship game.
Here is Zion Chris, big hole, open sesame. Zion Chris, wow, the 72-yard house call.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Holm Podcast, back here for the first time in the month of June. All the Houston Cougar sports happenings in and out off season. We're talking about it tonight. We got a Cougar head coach joining us in there as well. Plenty of stuff to talk about, Bobby. You are not coming to us from your home environs. Where are you coming to us? Me talking to you on the other end of this call and the listeners this week.
I'm in the great Waco, Texas, here to see my parents, and we have a family friend who's coming in town, who has known me since I was a very, very wee young lad. So they are coming in, so we'll be hanging out tomorrow doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, I am sitting in the extra bedroom in my parents' house in Waco, Texas.
Fantastic. I'm hoping sometime in the next month or so I could be doing something similar from my my folks' place in the beach in Galveston, Texas. We'll mention here at the top, as they always do, patreon.com/shpodcast, not just supporting the work that Bobby and I do, but this week you will get access to our premium men's basketball episode. We're going to take a deep dive into the 2026-27 Houston Cougar men's basketball team. I'm going to give you all a little taste of that here later this episode. So that's coming if you're looking for specific perks, if you just want to support the work that we do as the internet's longest running Houston Cougar sports podcast, an independent podcast that, whether it's football season, basketball season, or early June, we're talking about the Cougars. If any of that sounds good to you, please, please, please support us at patreon.com/shpodcast. We'll lead off with the one sport that is in season currently. That would be your Houston Cougar track and field program, which just completed its penultimate event of the season. That was the NCAA West prelims, which lead into the season concluding NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships out in Eugene, Oregon at historic Hayward Field. But for this specific episode, we will just be previewing the West prelims, how the Cougars did there, and save our full NCAA Outdoor thoughts, plus a little something special and extra we have planned for that preview for our pod next week. Plenty of good performances to talk about, Bobby. We'll take the qualifying performances from the men and women first, if you will allow me.
Let's do it, buddy.
Your first Cougar chronologically to qualify to move on to outdoors was CJ Wokeji. He was in the men's shot put. This was day one of the event. That was last Wednesday. And this was one of those bounce back performances that I was hoping to see when we previewed this event on our last pod. Wokeji had been one of this team's top performers going into Big 12 Outdoors and just had a tough event there, but comfortably moved on with a best throw of 62 feet, 1.25 inches to finish 7th among all 48 competing athletes. And I guess I'll keep it chronological for when the athletes actually qualified for outdoors last week, and go to my next athlete Friday afternoon, Andrea Mita, who actually came into this meet with the top performance of any Cougar athlete in their respective event. He also finished 7th in this event, tying for 7th with a freshman from Texas State. Both athletes had a best clearance of 7 feet, 2.5 inches. And Bobby, those two performances I just mentioned, Wokeji and Mita, sort of reminded me of something you said about golf and finishing off in the NCAA regional round as we followed that Cougar team recently. Obviously, myriad of differences between track and field and golf, but like the golf regional, in this meet, you're really not trying to win. Like the better you do, great, just for in terms of your personal pride. But at this stage of the season, you're just trying to move on. And as far as this event goes, not really that important in the grand scheme of things, whether you qualified with the best time, if it's a running event, or the best performance, if it's a field event, or you were the last one on the cut line. It's really just important that you moved on from it, like Wokeji and Mita did. We'll say, never a bad sign when you're one of the top performers at a preliminary event like this one, which is exactly what sprinter extraordinaire Louie Hinchliffe did in the Wednesday 100-meter prelims. Hinchliffe ran the third fastest time of all competitors to advance to the Friday quarterfinals with a trip to Eugene on the line, shaved a full 1/10 of a second off his time to run the fastest 100-meter time of all competitors, and emphatically booked his second trip to NCAA Outdoors in his 2 seasons with the Cougar track and field program. Also worth noting, and I think I mentioned this to you, in the quarterfinals with Hinchliffe was the sprinter with the fastest time in the country currently in the 100 this outdoor season. That's Jelani Watkins of Arkansas. And he was actually 100th of a second slower than Hinchliffe. He had the second fastest time. They ran in different heats, but the quarterfinals did see a rematch of Hinchliffe and the athlete who beat him in the 100 finals of Big 12 Outdoors. That was Arizona's Mason Lawyer. And he had the third fastest overall time, but second behind Hinchliffe when they ran in the same heat. I think potential best of three rematch coming between the two in Eugene. And I expect all three of the guys I've mentioned here, Hinchliffe along with Lawyer and Watkins, to make it past the semis in a couple weeks in Eugene and be running in the finals out there in the final meet of this college season, which I think will be really exciting. The 100 is always a pretty exciting event to watch at Outdoors, but I think those three guys plus the other athletes out there, no surprise, Leroy Burrell at Auburn sending multiple athletes from the East prelims there as well. So that'll be an interesting event to watch. In addition to the fact that an athlete we really like here, Louie Hinchliffe, will be, I think, certainly a part of that when it's all said and done. He was also part of the 4x100 relay group that will be advanced to compete in Eugene. A one-round event. There was no Wednesday and Friday on that. You just ran the Friday relays, and that was it. And that kind of amps up the pressure. And I'll admit, mention this one. I don't like mentioning this one, but always reminds me of that 2019 season where you had a bad handoff that ended your 4x1 relays season. But no such heartbreak this season. Cougs finished with the third fastest time overall, second in their heat behind Arkansas to emphatically punch their ticket to Eugene. Also, we'll mention 3 of the top 8 qualifying teams out of the West were Big 12 programs, the Cougs being the fastest. Special quick non-Coug shout out to Sam Houston State, who is 200ths of a second ahead of A&M and snagged the final qualifying spot over the Aggies. Did want to get back to something resembling chronological order here, though. Mention your lone women's qualifier, Cleo Ashapong in the women's shot put, who, like her men's counterpart, CJ Wokeji, she came to this meet off of a tough Big 12 outdoor weekend where she'd underperformed and had been coming into that meet as one of your top projected performers, but said it last week. Great thing about this meet is you have that chance for redemption. You have that chance to extend your season, and Cleo did exactly that, placing 8th and well above the cut line with a personal best throw of 55 feet, 7 inches, really redeeming that tough weekend she had in Tucson at Big 12 Outdoors. And she was actually the only Big 12 athlete that'll be representing the conference at NCAA Outdoors. In the women's shot put, do wish we were talking about more athletes than just Cleo Ashapong qualifying for Outdoors on the women's side, but I'm glad at least the best all-around athlete from that group, at least for this outdoor season, is getting to end her sophomore season on a high note and gets the trip to Eugene. Very last Cougar men's event of the meet, the 4x400 relay, really overperformed my pre-meet expectations big time. Not that I'm shocked they're moving on, but they came into this meet with the 14th fastest time on competing relays, ended up finishing 8th in the final. Really exciting. Like I said, didn't take it as a given that both relays will be moving on. And I think extra exciting because 3 of the 4 guys on that 4x4 relay for the Cougs are sophomores. Only Trey East will be moving on from that group after this season. We'll also quickly mention some of the performances where Cougar athletes at NCAA West prelims just narrowly missed out on qualifying for Eugene. For the women, other than Cleo Ashpong, probably the 2 athletes that I was watching the closest there were Casey McCoy and Miracle Thompson, both running the 100 hurdles. And they were able to qualify for the Saturday quarterfinals out of Thursday, but finished just on the wrong side of the cut line. Thompson ran the 16th fastest time, and McCoy ran the 17th. We'll say Thompson did run a personal best time of 13.12 seconds, so she got to end her college career on a high note at least. Men's 110 hurdles, one I was watching but knew it would take probably a season best performance to get there. Anthony Trucks made it past the Wednesday first round cuts to the Friday event quarterfinals, but finished with his 16th best time, just outside the top 12. Also, Shiana Hall closed her promising freshman season by finishing 25th in the women's triple jump. I think getting a really promising first college outdoor season, and definitely an athlete to watch from that very young core of your top women's athletes who followed this season. I mean, Cleo Ashapong, sophomore, she's coming back. Casey McCoy, junior, she's coming back. And Shiana Hall and others, I think, will be making a stronger push next season to come from here to Outdoors.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my big takeaway looking at the women's. Like you said, little disappointing to find yourself sending one athlete to Eugene for the national championships. But like you said, a lot of young talent on that women's roster, and you're just going to see them get better and better. And you brought up the golf reference there, and I think the other thing that we kind of saw with the women's golf team was their building to the championship level that they got to this year. So for me, I kind of see that happening with the women's track team right now. Just some of the men that you kind of mentioned, Andrea Mita getting qualifying in the high jump. You kind of expected that heading in. Really excited for him and again, you kind of see finished 7th overall, but did win the Big 12s, and so like you said, you're just trying to make it. You're not necessarily trying to win here. I think one of the biggest surprises was not that they made it, but really how they ran was the 4x1. Really excited to see them. Like you said, a really good performance there. And anything can go wrong in the 4x1. I think we saw it in the women's 4x1 at Big 12s
Yes,
where
you're correct.
a really good Texas Tech team didn't advance because they dropped the baton. That is something that absolutely can happen. And anytime you watch a 4x1 and you get it off cleanly and you qualify, that's a win for me. Hinchliffe, I think we weren't quite expecting him to maybe be the fastest, and he did, or just a little. I don't even want to say shocked. You're going up against a really good runner who is running on his home track that he's used to. So, great to come out on top there. Expect to see him do really well in Eugene as well.
Yeah, I have no scientific basis for this, but I feel like the 4x1, because it's so much shorter, is harder. You know,
Yeah,
like you have less time. Like 4x4, it's like one lap per guy or per
yeah,
athlete. So I feel like
and
that might be a little easier, a little less quick possibility for drop baton. That's one of those things. If I had unlimited time, I would almost want to see, like, is it more common to drop the baton on a 4x1 than a 4x4?
yeah, and one of the things that should give you hope about the 4x4 being as good as it looked here, finishing third in their heat with their season best, is one, you're peaking at the right time, but two, how young this team is. But really, if you know anything about track, and not that I'm a huge track guy, but you find a lot of younger athletes don't exactly love running the 4x4, especially at like the high school level, because or running the 400 in general, because everyone wants to focus on the big time sprints. But to have a team of young guys who are doing it and are looking good at it is really exciting as well.
Yeah, it may help you also in the long term, looking ahead to outdoors. Not that we're doing full thoughts here, but that those athletes are just there for the 4x4. Like I would
Hmm.
imagine there's at least some crossover between some of the top 4x4 relays and guys running the 400 or even the 200 individually and qualifying there. So nice, you can have all four of those guys out in Eugene and just focus on that relay.
Agreed.
So I would have said before this meet, basically the athletes that we listed off, like those were the ones I felt like you need to qualify these for outdoors. And you did precisely that in at least one case that we just talked about, the men's 4x4. You overperformed expectations. So I would say I'm excited for this team and excited to bring y'all this outdoor preview here coming up next episode with a special guest.
Yeah, do you think that you're going to win the national title with as many athletes as you
No.
qualified? Probably not, but you you have some chances to win some really exciting events.
Yeah, you have chances for podiums in the case of Hinchliffe in the 4x1. I wouldn't even rule out being on top of the podium when it's all said and done.
Absolutely.
So we'll do a quick men's basketball schedule hitter here. We had some developments there since we last recorded. I think the big one is that you'll be playing in New York City in the Jimmy V Classic against, I would say, the one team, if you could say one men's college basketball program that has had your number somewhat over the last several years of the Kelvin Sampson era, you'd have to admit it's the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nate Oates, and that is the team you will be playing there. I've kind of got to think about it, Bobby, since we got that news to now. And I think it is actually really good that you're facing a bogey team. Like, you might not win this game, but I think for me, these kind of non-conference matchups, like it's obviously great to win. Like the more good wins you can get, the more chances you have to beat a good team. It's positive. But to me, I don't see a downside in potentially losing this, especially as we'll get to in our premium episode, teasing that maybe here in a little bit. It's going to be a very new looking team. It's going to be a team that even if you've had a month or so of basketball to play prior to this matchup, you're still going to have guys feeling each other out. You're still going to be a team that in the most general sense is getting used to each other. So I think it is actually a positive that you get the stress test of Bama, a team that historically has really had Kelvin Sampson, Houston Cougar men's basketball's number over the years.
Yeah, I think when you texted me the news, because I was working all weekend, when you texted me the news that we were playing Bama in New York City, I was like excited, but also, man, Nate Oates, just his teams and the way he plays, because I think those Bama teams are physical, but they like to run, and that's the same but opposite of what the Cougs like to do. So just like you said, kind of a kryptonite for this program. Not saying that it's a major problem or something we need to address, or any of 50 things that you can say to get yourself worked up over it. But yeah, definitely one of those things that I just kind of was like, ah, dang it. And then also, I think I pointed out to you, it's a bit cruel to make us play in the Jimmy V week, right?
Yeah, I hope they're not doing. I mean, we'll be honest. We'll show. I mean, Jim Valvano's NC State beating U of H in the title game was several years before both of us were born.
Yeah,
So it predates our time, and we're both closer than 40 than we are to 21, our college age at this point. But I mean, come on, if it's before our time, you get a bunch of players who were like born at the latest.
I'm not being serious with that.
No,
It's
I know. It's one of those, like, if you have a reaction to that, and God knows there are Cougar fans out there who had that reaction to like not like anything like, oh, I hate Jim Valvano or something like that. I hope no one clips that sentence I just said, but more the, like, they see that name and they think of one of the most heartbreaking moments in program history, I guess.
Yeah. I just saw it. I was like, man, that's a little messed up, right?
I was just thinking, like, that was over 20 years before I would imagine our entire roster was born in on this earth.
I'm not saying anyone on the roster or it's going to make a difference either way.
No, I know.
Kind of funny from a marketing side where you're just kind of like, and Houston gets to play in the Jimmy V week. It's like, shit.
Yeah, please, like, if they're going to gratuitously show something while I watch this on TV, just please gratuitously show the never give up SB speech and not the NC State buzzer beater.
Hey,
bad enough last year we had to every time, and we mostly were playing national games. It was like, here, let's show a clip from the 2025 championship game. And I was just like, thanks. I'd almost forgotten it, but thank you CBS Sports for showing for the umpteenth time the clip of the final sequence at the title game against Florida. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure the University of Florida is really excited to play the Bobby Bowden Classic.
Yeah, exactly. The only other news I saw, I don't know if it's entirely confirmed, we added a bye game against Oakland, a non-conference team we saw this past season. Don't know or believe we'll be getting the Greg Campy, their long time head coach, Christmas sweater game out of that. Google that one, Bobby, if you haven't.
I know what you're talking about.
The man breaks out just the most fantastic ugly Christmas sweaters for that. Usually pretty punchy mid-major too. So nice to add them to the bye game. We're starting to see the schedule take shape a little bit, but definitely felt like mentioning the Bama game. We'll say, I think I said this to you. Bama's almost like the Wario to U of H's Mario. Like they're still an elite, or if you want to take umbrage with the term elite with Bama, right below the tier of elite. Like they're still a high level team like the University of Houston, but like the approach is so much different. Breakneck pace, a little defense optional, and just chucking lots of 3-pointers, like kind of opposite to the Kelvin Sampson approach here, which maybe that's somewhat why we've had a problem with them over the years.
That's what I was saying, is like they are tough. They can rebound as well, but they also just play fast and play with some tempo there.
So as I mentioned at the top, we also recorded a premium episode diving in now that we have, I would say, pretty clear picture. Guys are already on campus for workouts, so we know what the 2026-27 Houston Cougar men's basketball roster is going to look like. So Bobby and I did a deep dive into what we think the team's going to look like, storylines, and areas where we think the team might be improved with this new look roster over last season. So here's a little listen to what Bobby and I had to talk about there. So we'll get to the returning guys first. By no means is he the only returning player who could play a critical role in the coming season, but we couldn't leave with anyone else in any discussion of returning players other than JoJo Tugler. And the numbers back it up that last season was his best offensive output, his third season of the program. But I think the fact that we didn't have to wait more than 24 hours after the Illinois loss for it to be clear that he was coming back to the program tells you that JoJo knows he could do better than what we saw last season. I don't really put a lot of stock in his block rate going down from the previous season. To me, that's more of a testament to teams just avoiding putting up shots that Tugler could block. I mean, to use the cross-sport analogy, I think it's like having a shutdown corner in football who opposing teams don't throw at, and they don't really have the counting stats, the interception. Like, it still has its value. It still has its value that opposing teams don't really want to put up a lot of shots around JoJo Tugler, that he has that reputation, that he's already changing what teams do even before getting on the court. And last year, the Cougars were top 10 nationally in opponent 2-point field goal percentage, but the most telling stat for me is that Cougar opponents only got a little over 44% of their points on 2-point field goals. Their opponents got, it was 329th nationally, opponents' percentage of points from 2-pointers last season. And that's not all JoJo Tugler. He and his team, he had a lot of teammates around him who were themselves good defenders, but no player affected that more than Tugler. And even with a lot of new faces likely to be in your starting lineup this season, I think he's got to be one of the biggest reasons you're high on this team.
Yeah, I think returning JoJo Tugler is a key thing to keep this team. I think if you lose JoJo Tugler, you maybe don't think as highly of this team as, I talked about maybe having a top 15 team. I don't know if you're even top 20 if you don't bring JoJo Tugler back here. Like you said, defensive presence is still there, but when you talk about JoJo, you talk about some things to improve on, Sam. And, it's easy to talk about his fouls, right? And talk about how easily he fouled out of games and got into foul trouble. But, I think a big thing is how do you keep that JoJo Tugler intensity? Because you want him to still play with that, right? You want him diving on the floor to get loose balls. You want that kind of thing. And if you take that from him, does it affect other parts of his defense? You know what I mean? But with all of that being said, how do you harness that in a much more healthy way, right? Like, JoJo, maybe we don't get a reach-in call 65 feet from the other team's basket after a rebound. Like, they just got the board that you didn't. Sometimes that happens. And on one hand, you love it if you're Kelvin Sampson because that's what you preach. Another interesting fact, Sam, did you know that they actually will put a dome on top of the rim when they have practice?
Never heard that. You're breaking news to me.
Yeah, he'll put a dome. They call it a bubble because it looks like a bubble, and you don't know which way the ball's going to bounce.
But do they do a drill with it?
Yeah, and it sometimes is difficult for shooters because shooters like to say, you know what, do your own research, guys. But yeah, you just need him to not get those ticky-tack fouls 65 feet away from the basket where you're just like, JoJo, you have, you want to play in the NBA, you have to know not to do that. You know what I mean? And so, but I think one of the most overlooked things last year was you pointed out that his offensive rate was better, and yeah, it was great, but I think we all expected a bit more of a step forward from his offensive game last year. I think you can chalk that up to a couple of things. Number one being, was he ever in the game long enough to get a rhythm to his game to establish that, do all that? Maybe, maybe not, and that could be a problem, but there were lots of times early in the year, and even and as we got later in the year, his offense picked up a little bit, but you definitely saw he just had no touch last year. I don't know if I'm crazy for thinking that.
I think you're being a little unfair on his later season. He definitely got better. Was the sum total of his junior year as good as it could be offensively? No, that's why he's here his senior year. But I think he got demonstrably better by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think he definitely got better, but it just still wasn't, I don't think, what anyone expected it to be. And even fairly early, or even later in the season, like you said, it did get better. But I do just wonder, does he have it to take that next step again? We saw a Fabian White, we saw a Wani Roberts really take these big steps. Not Fabian White wasn't much of an offensive player that we thought of a ton, and then granted he had a year of that ACL injury where he was able to practice on his shot a lot and do that, and they showed him sitting in the chair doing that kind of stuff. But you saw Wani between his junior and senior year take a massive step forward with his offensive game, so much so that he became kind of the go-to guy. You saw him in multiple scenarios be the last guy to touch the ball. Are you going to be able to get that out of JoJo Tugler this year? I think that's a big question for the Cougs.
It is a big question. We'll say both the guys you mentioned, Fabian White and Wani Roberts, had their best offensive season their 5th year in the program. Yep. JoJo is between his 3rd and 4th.
Yep.
And is young for his grade specifically. So I don't think it's crazy to think that he could. And I'm not expecting a 15 to 16 point per game level season from JoJo. I'd love to be wrong there. And frankly, if he does have that level of season, I think it raises the ceiling of what this Cougar team can achieve. To me, a successful offensive season for JoJo, it obviously shows the needed offensive improvement more consistently. That the end of last season wasn't I guess, exception to the rule, that it was actually a trend line of, hey, he started really picking it up. And I mean, it's a weird parallel. It doesn't entirely work, but Fabian White comes in for the tail end of that season where he tore his ACL right after COVID happens. We already knew that 2021 season wasn't counting against anyone's eligibility, so you kind of got him back to the tail end of the season while still getting him another year to come back for 21 and 22. He really flashed things in that partial season he played for the Final Four team in 2021, and it ended up being indicative of a guy capable of doing that over a season. I'd like to think that's the case for JoJo. Obviously, time will prove me right or wrong there, but I think a successful season is one where he can be a go-to guy with much more consistency. I don't care if that's 14, 15 points a game. I don't care if it's 10 or 11 points a game, because other guys are more consistent offensive presences out there. I want the efficiency numbers to improve, and I want there to be games where it's like, yeah, we can go to JoJo here. Like, it's never going to look exact. I don't think he's ever going to have the mid-range game that Wani does, but I also think he could potentially be better closer to the basket. Like, I think he has a level of athleticism and size that Wani doesn't, but again, we haven't seen it over the course of a full season. Like, that's something we haven't seen yet, and any assertion that he definitely can do it is just, it's guesswork. It's just it's an opinion by me. It's not backed up by a season's worth of stats yet, admittedly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you said there, bud. Well, hopefully, guys, that gets you to subscribe and listen to the premium episode. To find that, go to patreon.com/SH podcast to get the full version of it. And Sam, we were able to get on Valeriya Zeleva for the new tennis coach. Sam, I thought it was a pretty good interview. We can share it with everybody. So let's go ahead and get that going.
We are thrilled to be joined today for the first time by the new University of Tennis head coach, Valeriya Zeleva. Coach, thanks for taking a little time out of your day to talk some Cougar tennis with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I think most important question here at the top, what about the University of Houston made you want to consider and ultimately take the head coaching job here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, being in Auburn was amazing. We had great results. We were top 20 3 years ago and became number 1 this year. So, didn't really plan on looking for the head coaching job unless I thought that's the right fit for me. Because, I have a winner mentality, and, I don't want to take the job that wouldn't lead me to winning. And, I think that University of Houston women's tennis really underachieved all of those previous years. And, Big 12 conference, just, the main part is the recruiting part, and every single team, it's a major city, easy to recruit. We have everything there to be successful, all of the resources and facilities. It's just, everything, underachieving team, and, just kind of having, like, being the first one who can do something for this program and for this university. So, yeah, as soon as the job opened, I pretty much I called my husband right away. I was like, hey, like, this job opens, like, should we do it? Because, we just got the house here in Auburn, and we moved in October. So, he's pretty flexible with his job. So he's up to whatever. He was, 100%. He was like, yeah, apply. And, if you get it, we pack the bags and we go. So, yeah, that was awesome.
That's great. Well, just to kind of learn a little bit more about you, take us back to your playing career for a bit. How did you originally end up coming over to play American college tennis in the first place?
Yeah, I actually went to college kind of late. I was already 20 years old, and I was an international transfer from Russia. I grew up in Moscow. So, I was pretty successful junior. I was top 30 in the world. I was a member of the national tennis team in Russia. So, didn't really plan to go through the college route that soon, right after my high school graduation. So, started playing pro. I became 540 in the world when I was 19. And so pretty much as soon as I started playing pro until 20 years old for 3 years, I kind of maintained the same ranking while all of my peers kind of jumped up very quickly. And so, I just decided to change something. I heard a lot of good things about college tennis, and there were so many players that were coming out of college who were, jumping into top 100, top 200. So, I had only 2.5 years to play, so 3 seasons of eligibility, and I started in January. So it was, kind of good switch for me at a time. And I picked UCF because I thought it's the right fit, and it was Florida. We were competing against good teams, so really believed in the coaching team, and my teammates. So I thought that UCF would be, and college route in general is the best fit for me at the time, and started playing, and honestly, my first year in the fall, so right after the first season ended for me, we were on some tournament, and I was driving in the car with my assistant coach, and she asked me, what do I want to do after college? And then it's just kind of like, once I started playing, I knew I don't want to leave college environment anymore, and I was like, I just probably want to be like you. I want to go and be assistant coach right after, and then see if I want to become a head coach. And so here I am. Honestly, just a very inspiring environment, and my coaches inspired me in doing this job for sure.
You kind of talked about this. Looking back on your playing career, what were the most important things you learned as a player that you've now taken into coaching tennis?
Yeah, obviously, the most important thing is, you're not playing for yourself anymore. You're playing for something bigger. You're playing for the school, for everything that they give you. They give you the free education. They give you, all of the resources, professional tournaments, and also for the people that are coming to watch. It's, when you're professional, especially starting to be a professional, there's really nobody's gonna come watch you. There's gonna be only your mom, or maybe a coach, or maybe your friend is gonna sit there. So, just one person in the corner. So, you're playing pretty much for yourself. And here in college, no matter what's your ranking, no matter how good or how bad you are, you will have lots of people that are gonna cheer for you, and just all of the support that the school is providing. That's the most important thing that I learned is, don't do it for yourself, do it for others. and it's just kind of like being consistent and showing up every single day because you know that you have responsibility, coming for you at the end of the week, that you have to show up every single day, and you got to play and win because you're expected to win. So yeah, it's when you're playing pro, you're kind of you lose, you win, you win. You go on the next match, and you're not gonna regret about it. You will regret about it maybe for a couple hours, and then you move on to the next tournament. Here, if you lose to, if you lose to, let's say, I don't know, like for example here in Auburn, you lose to the University of Georgia, and I can't sleep anymore. Like I can't sleep. If we have a late match, if we win, I can't sleep. But if we lose, like I'm not gonna sleep at all. So, it's just kind of like having this pressure and actually like going out there and like give 100% every single day, and just. This part is honestly crazy. It was a very, very different switch from being pro to college.
So when we saw you were taking the job and had played your college tennis for UCF, a team that U of H has shared conferences with for many, many years, we kind of checked the internet to see if you had faced U of H in your career and found that you did face U of H in the American Conference Tournament semifinals your last college season. Do you remember that match at all? And if so,
I
what
actually,
do you
I
remember?
remember that match. I don't remember who I played, the name of the girl, but I remember her. I definitely remember doubles. We lost doubles, and it was totally my fault. I was just not there. And then it's singles. I just remember it was kind of like middle of the day. It was very hot. It was a long match. I think we beat Houston 4-2 or 4-1. I'm not sure.
4-0. You all actually won 4-0.
Because I remember it was a very long match and we had 3 setters going on. So I think it might have been 4-0, but it could be 4-3 at the same time. I just remember that. I was just very happy to finish because the match was very long, and I was I remember that match. That's for sure. I actually when this job opened, I was like, have we ever played Houston? And then I remember that match. So it brings memories for sure. Yeah.
When we looked it up, I saw a 3-setter, and I was just like, "Ooh, May in Florida 3-setter," and you'd played doubles before that. That is a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a little bit. If Cougar fans aren't aware, the Auburn program you're coming from as an assistant coach just played for the national title in the last couple weeks. Having coached that team this most recent season and having been at Auburn the 2 seasons prior, what made this year's group different from the teams immediately before it, which all made the postseason, but all went out a little earlier in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like first and foremost, you can't get there. No matter how good of a coach you are, you can't get there if you don't have players. And this time, you can have great players, but if they're not on the same page, you just, you're not gonna win. And I think like this year, I mean, obviously, I didn't get to coach like for many years. But from what everybody, from all of our staff that was saying, and honestly, like 3 years being in Auburn, that was probably the best group that I've ever coached in my life. Just because, first of all, they're very nice girls. They're no drama, just very kind, very like put together group. They're hanging out with each other, and they were there to win. First, like they all want to be professional tennis players after college, so they're showing up every single day on their 100%. And I mean, it's just honestly, it's just like this group. When we just started working with them in the fall, I already knew that we're gonna make it at least semis of NCAA, just because of the level and just how fast they're improving because they want it. It's like without these girls, I don't know. Even if one of them would be a little bit off, I think it just wouldn't be possible. But just 11 girls that we had on the team, just. They did an amazing job. Just their perseverance and going through the tough moments, the way they handle the pressure throughout the season, like being the first one, because there was a lot on the table for them, because they were the ones that could make the history for the program, for like just doing everything for the first time and just handling that pressure, winning the SEC, winning the regular season, and coming into the final for the first time in the program history is big. So just very, very mature, great group of girls.
So you mentioned some attributes, but now that you're here and starting the process of building your roster for the upcoming season, what attributes are you looking for, besides obviously good tennis players, in prospective players to add to the roster?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said, you can't win without good players. I'm looking for the talent, that's for sure. And then second, I'm looking for somebody that wants to be pro. I don't want to. Obviously, things change, and players tend to pursue different careers after college. But while they're here, I want them to at least give them a chance and have this mindset that they are doing it for the reason that they're playing for something, but also for their future, because they want to play pro. So I kind of what I want to do, I want to provide them professional schedule in the fall, and make them play those UTR professional tournaments as well. And I kind of really want to invest in that, not just money, but not the financial part, but also just my energy and the way we're gonna practice. I'm focusing on, a lot on the individual aspect. We're gonna spend a lot of time one-on-one with every single girl on the court, besides team practices. And I just really want to try to develop every single one of them on the court. And that's why I want them to actually want to do it. I don't want them to just come out and having this kind of lazy mindset of thinking, oh, why am I coming to the court early in the morning? Why are we practicing so much? I just want them to kind of having same goals as me. Obviously I'm looking for good players, but also I'm looking for the right fit. And just looking for hardworking girls that ready to do whatever it takes and up to anything. If I tell them tomorrow we're leaving to California, they're ready to go. So it's just kind of that's what I'm looking for.
So I have one more Valeriya Zeleva question, and then a couple Cougar questions to close it out here. I wanted to ask you this. I think I mentioned to you before we started, I've played tennis and padel in my life. Also, I guess the French Open is going on right now as we record this. Having played both clay and hard courts in your career, I assume you play a decent amount of clay during your European career. Do you have a preference of clay courts versus hard courts as a player, and why?
I mean, honestly, it's funny. It's, obviously when you're a junior, you don't get to choose the surface. It's depends on the season. If it's fall, it's hard court. If it's summer, it's only clay. So you don't really get to choose. But when you're professional, there's hard courts and clay courts throughout the year, so you can pick the tournament. And it's funny. I love hard court just because I was an aggressive player. I'm hitting pretty flat. I'm a good mover, but not good enough for the clay court. When I was playing professionally, I was picking hard court tournaments, but my best results were actually on the clay. So, I think, whatever you're telling yourself, this is what you get. But at the same time, proof is in the pudding, and it's on the scoreboard. It's just, you better not to overthink any of those things. Obviously, there will be a court that you're comfortable with, but you just gotta go out there and play and compete, and that's all you need to do, because you never know how good or how bad you can do every single week. So, hard court. I like hard court, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
I love it. So one of the things that's been interesting for Sam and I to learn as we've become more, familiar with American college tennis are the differences between the fall individual season and the spring team season. What are the differences in how you prepare your athletes for each one of those seasons?
Yeah, I mean, in the fall, it's obviously we have much more time, on practicing, and we can push. Uh, we can practice for a little bit more hours because there's less tournaments, and you can really develop throughout that time. Whilst in the spring, there's matches every single day, so you're really like not trying to push them for too much because you don't want them to get injured or burned out. So yeah, I mean, in the fall, it's mostly about development. We're gonna focus a lot on the fitness and just technique aspects on the court. Obviously, we're gonna play lots of tournaments, but most of those tournaments are individual tournaments. So like there's gonna be one or two girls going to play invitational tournament. Let's say at TCU, and then there's another girl that are gonna play invitational tournament over there, and then maybe somebody's gonna go and play some professional 15K. So yeah, it's very individualized. Everybody has their own schedule in the fall, so it's kind of no rush. Just everything about matches and getting ready for the spring, and then in the spring, this is when we're gonna focus more on maintaining that shape, and yeah, going to play into the season.
Last question here, Coach. What can Cougar fans expect to see when they come to watch your University of Houston tennis teams next season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is what I really want to focus on next year is really to bring people into our matches, and I expect them to be loud, and I just want. I know that my girls are gonna do everything they can on the court, and they really need to be supported by all of these people. I think it's gonna be very energetic group. It will be fun to watch them, and yeah, obviously, I expect us to win a lot as well next year. So yeah, lots of winning energy and fun. We're gonna, make sure we engage all of those fans before the match and after the matches, and maybe doing some clinics for adults and kids after the clinic. So yeah, we're really gonna try to make it fun and interesting for them to come watch.
It's been great talking with you, Coach Zeleva, and best of luck here. And we look forward to following your Cougar tennis teams here in the future.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Really enjoyed talking with Coach Valeriya. My first impression is good. After 20-something minutes of talking with her in total, yeah, you can see why she's a power conference Division I head coach. Very no BS about wanting to be good here, that she said she expects to win and won't accept less, even though it is factually a program that's underachieved for most of its modern history. I mean, we just followed the third best season this program's had in the 21st century. The other two were a pair of NCAA tournaments in 2013 and 14. Your last head coach proved it's not impossible to win here and got some much needed program improvements and infrastructure stuff done before leaving for Oklahoma State. I think the challenge now isn't, can Houston Cougar tennis not be a doormat of Big 12 tennis programs? It came heartbreakingly close to the NCAA's, but indisputably was one of the better Big 12 tennis programs and treated several league opponents like a doormat. I think the challenge now is, can this become a consistent, we won't say Big 12 power, because I still think this program is behind too many other conference programs and facilities and support, but can you be a consistently good Big 12 program where it gets to the point where the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the league come to Houston and they expect a loss, and the better teams don't come to Houston expecting an easy 4-0 win? That's, I think, the realistic goal here. Even the short term, not an unrealistic one. You have 4 potential veteran returning starters, none of whom have entered the portal, despite players now signaling their intention to do so for weeks. I believe today, June 2nd, is the last day you can enter the portal, though reporting on this isn't as widespread, so there could be athletes that we think are coming back during the portal. Not a guarantee that nothing happens, but we'll say, and I think I told you this, Bobby, off air, the math basically doesn't work now for all of your starters being able to follow your last head coach to Oklahoma State and likely start there. certainly haven't filled out the roster yet. You have, we talked about her last week, Natalie Sinkova from Denver. Don't think she'll be the last ad, but if you return 3 full-time and 1 part-time starter off of a pretty good team, I think that raises the floor considerably. Obviously, a very long time until we get team tennis next spring, but excited to see what this roster looks like under Coach Valeriya come fall semester.
Yeah, really excited. I thought one of the most interesting things she said, and I think I told you this right after we finished filming the interview, was when she said, I'm interested in people who want to play professional tennis. I was like, oh, that's different. Like that's a different level we haven't necessarily heard those exact words from a coach before. And if you want to play that level of tennis, then you better be ready to put the work in and be very serious about your tennis game.
Yeah, I think it was also just I want athletes who want to come here and take it seriously. They're not coming here just to get a American college education and maybe play a little tennis on the side. Like, no, I expect athletes to come here, treat it like it's a job, and have serious aspirations in the sport. Yeah, no, that definitely stuck out to me as well.
Yeah, I just thought that was super interesting. You don't hear that a lot from coaches in any sport, let alone a sport like tennis. And I think you're exactly right. It's more of a indicator of you're not coming over here to come to the States and do that. You're here to you're going to be here to play tennis and win matches.
No doubt. For our next segment, I'm not going to do the golf quarter music because it's a bittersweet golf quarter. Maybe I jinxed us a bit, Bobby, when I said last week that our recap of the NCAA championship and end of season thoughts would be our final golf corner, because we found out Saturday morning. Kind of ironically, Bobby, you were actually the first one to tell me about Kat leaving tennis, my country club sport of choice. And then I broke the news of Lydia leaving U of H for Bama on Saturday. Lydia Lasprilla leaving U of H to take the same job at the University of Alabama. Never happy news to lose a coach who made history and oversaw consistently very good teams here. Those we'll get to. Not a hard decision to understand. Bobby, give me your thoughts here as the resident golf guy.
Yeah, to be honest, what I heard when you told me she had left and went to Alabama, I was like, yeah, that's really kind of hard to argue with. They had a coach who, a legendary coach who just retired. That school is just like in every sport, right? Alabama in every sport.
Won a national championship this century, if memory serves.
Yeah, even if you take out the golf aspect, if you get a job offer from Alabama and you're in collegiate sports, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be really well funded and you're going to have a chance to win national championships. So don't necessarily blame her for leaving. I wouldn't leave, but I'm also have my connections to U of H, right? You look at this from an objective kind of point of view. Alabama just built a $46 million beautiful facility. Sam, you asked me about it. I legitimately think they could charge memberships at this practice facility. It's got 9 holes. The inside, the building's massive. And I didn't realize this till I started doing a little bit of research. Sam, it is a mile and a half from their campus. To put it in perspective of how far they have to go to get to their their golf facility, how far do you think it is? It is, I will just tell you, it is a mile and a half basically from the center of campus to this $46 million golf facility. Then you look at what she had to deal with in Houston, and it is in Humble. The U of H golf facility is in Humble, and it's not even nearly as nice as this. It is the same distance from the middle of Alabama's campus to the golf facility as it is from the Moody Towers to Timmy Chance.
It's crazy.
That's an insane thing to think about, man. Like, that is absolutely insane. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. There's probably a pretty good pay bump when you go over there as well. So, I wish nothing but luck to Coach Lasprilla. Super nice, always really nice to us. So you hope she has a good career there. Now, Sam, with that being said, the next thing we got to do is we got to look at some candidates. You mind if I kind of go through some that I kind of were looking at?
Yeah, hit me, buddy.
Yeah, so I think the first one to kind of mention, and I haven't heard anything. He's probably one of the favorites to get this job. And that's going to be assistant coach Daniel Park at Oklahoma State. if you recognize the name, Coach Park was the assistant here for a lot of this build that Coach Lasprilla did. Kind of watch him. If he doesn't leave Oklahoma State, I wouldn't be surprised by that. If he follows Coach Lasprilla to Alabama, I wouldn't be surprised by that if she tries to get him. And also, if he becomes the head coach of University of Houston, I wouldn't be surprised there. A guy who did a lot to help Coach Lasprilla in her recruiting and getting those players developed. So just kind of one to keep an eye out for. Again, not that I've heard anything. Now, Sam, would you rather I rank them from way I think they might get hired, like position and chance that they might get hired, or ones I would hire the most, the ones I would pursue the most?
Let's get the Bobby choice. Who would you hire
right.
if you're sitting in the athletic director chair and semi-realistic budget? Well, semi because we don't exactly know what UH is working with here.
Yep. So my number one choice is going to be Amy Bush-Herzer at UNLV. She's been there for 15 years, and you're probably going, man, that's a long time. But she's got a really good record. One of those consistent teams that is competing for regional and NCAA championship berths. It's really going to come down to, can you pry her away? If you look at what Coach Lasprilla was making versus what Coach Bush-Herzer is making, to be honest, Lasprilla was making more at U of H by about $150,000. So you should have it in your budget to maybe pull her away that way. She does seem like she likes UNLV. She's been there 15 years. She's involved with the PGA of America in the Las Vegas area in Southern Nevada, right? It is Southern Nevada, if I'm doing it right.
Yes. Nevada. People take issue with your pronunciation, Nevada, but not your geographical point.
I was just about to ask, am I doing okay with that? So, but yeah, overall, I really like her. Team finished 65th this year. Made it to a regional. Didn't qualify for NCAAs, but won the Mountain West stroke play side. You look at last year, finished 36th in the country, made it to the national championships, finished 22nd at UNLV. The year before that, and this is kind of where Spike Mark kind of dips out, number 62 in the country, and finished second in the Mountain West that year. So finished second in Mountain West that year. So overall, really like her resume. It's just going to be a matter of, can you pry her away if she really likes UNLV. I think you might be able to get the money there. My next one is going to be Pawd Nilsson at Texas State. Really like what he's done the last couple of years with that program. 5 of his players are actually foreign players. And we've seen the Cougs really focus on that and have some success with that. Just a consistent number 2 in the Sun Belt. Just one of those consistent performers that you just get excited about. And I think he wouldn't be one of those hires that makes you go, oh my God, we're winning a national title or anything like that. But he would go, okay, he's going to be able to build upon what we've seen at U of H this year. Finished 54th this year in the country, second in the Sun Belt. You just last year was a bad year. Finished 107. You might hold that against him a little bit, but the year before, they finished number 58 in the country. He was also an assistant at Oklahoma State when Oklahoma State was beyond good, winning national championships and things like that. So he's got some experience in that. So those would probably be my top 2. Then you kind of move forward from there. Another name, just to kind of, because of what happened with baseball, is the assistant coach Rather at LSU. She was a former player at LSU, but and has been there forever. Maybe looking for her first opportunity to get a head coaching job. Was there when Nunez was there. So if baseball gives you any indicator, I kind of looked at it. I'm sure she's had opportunities to go other places and hasn't. So probably not going to happen. But that's a name just to kind of be on the lookout for. And then I would say my third choice is probably going to be Rachel Pollock over at University of Louisiana Monroe. This is going to be a little bit more of a risk, high ceiling, low floor kind of hire. Has only been a head coach for 3 years. All 3 years have been at Louisiana Monroe. And if you just kind of look at the stats, you may not be too excited. But year 1 there, they finished 102nd in the country. Year 2, they finished 82nd. And this year, they finished 62nd. A great trending line there. But like I said, a little bit of a risk when you kind of look at, does she have the big time experience or anything like that? And then finally, a name to kind of be on the lookout for, and I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Ayers over at UNT gets a call. Won a ton at Texas State before he went to UNT. Won back-to-back Conference USA titles with UNT. Since they moved to the American, he's probably still waiting on that first American class to kind of get going and really hit their stride. We talk about that with football, right? That those first couple of years you're recruiting to a new conference, and one that is better. The American is better than Conference USA is in golf. You're kind of, now you're having to recruit a slightly better athlete, but they're younger. So you're kind of hoping that it's going to take them a little bit to develop. And so kind of still waiting on that first American based class to really hit their stride. So not sure if he would leave, but those are kind of some of the names just to be on the lookout for. Any of them catch your attention, Sam, when I first mentioned them to you and have since done the research?
Yeah, I think multiple good hires in there. I think my top choices would be Amy Bush Herzer from UNLV. I think would be number one. We'll say also she has a bit more convenient of a practice setup at UNLV. They have a facility at Las Vegas Country Club. I was able to I didn't go in there, but seemed like it was a pretty good sized one. Just seeing it from afar while I was out there watching the Cougars in day 3 of that event. I mean, a little difference there. It's like a 6-7 minute drive from the UNLV campus to Las Vegas Country Club, as opposed to a not 6 or 7 minute drive from the U of H campus to Humble. Although I think you said Lydia had her office at the facility in Humble, but still probably a lot of driving there. But that would probably be my top choice there. But I really do think, and I'm not usually somebody who goes for the promotion, or not promotion, but the assistant coach where U of H is now. It's a station, I think, as a Big 12 everything program. But Daniel Park, I think just given how involved he was in building this roster, that he was good enough to get the assistant job at a really good program in Oklahoma State. Like, I normally wouldn't be super keen on hiring a first-time head coach, but I think in this case, given he was so much a part of building what this team ended up being, and it had an incredible season, was before that very good program consistently, I'd be happy to have him back here. So those are my top 2. I'd like the Texas State coach Nilsson as well.
Yeah, Texas State's coach name is Parr. How awesome is that for a golf coach?
Oh, it's been mentioned a time or two between us.
Yeah. And then as we were recording, literally as we sit here to record, just real quick, I'm not going to have a bunch of candidates because, again, it broke about 15 minutes ago. Men's coach Jonathan Dismuke and director of golf Jonathan Dismuke has retired and is taking a job in the private sector after 17 years of coaching the men's golf team. Going to be really interesting to see what that looks like. And, when you've had a coach around for 17 years, you don't know what the program looks like without him. You got a lot of history here with this program. And we've shown that you can go to regionals. That's kind of what we expect out of you. Can you go to regionals? But next week, Sam, I promise I will have a list of candidates. Had I known this was coming down, I would have had some prepped.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's going to be, whoever the new coach is going to be a director of golf, or do you just have the men's and women's coaches kind of just be over their own spot? Are you hiring someone to the exact position, or are you just going to hire 2 people who just manage their programs as largely separate entities? That's going to be something interesting to watch there as well.
Yep.
Like Jinx says, we got at least one more golf corner coming this season.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
No apology needed. It more a lesson to me to stop putting a mouth on these things.
Me, my big mouth.
Exactly. And we'll close tonight with some quick baseball news before we go. We have the postseason underway, which, side note, incredible first weekend in the regionals. Multiple 4 seeds advancing past the regional round. Milwaukee, a team that was well below 500, beating Auburn pretty decisively in the opening game. Just a really fantastic event, and that's generally the case year in, year out. In this year's case, probably one of the absolute craziest. But also, we have players entering the transfer portal now that we're at the end of the regular season. During the postseason, we have several Cougar players from this past team that would have been projected returners in there. A number of players who didn't see action. Not going to really mention them here as well, but you did have 4 notables who did see a fair amount of action for you to varying degrees this year. Outfielder Xavier Perez, first baseman and catcher Riley Jackson, and pitchers Connor Udland, and Diego Lazardo are both in the portal as well. 4 guys there. Perez and Jackson were your 2 best all-around hitters that would have been returning from the past season, though for season performance, probably behind Cade Clemmy, Trey Broussard, and Tyler Cox. Just unfortunately for Cougars, Clemmy and Cox are out of college eligibility, and Broussard is almost certainly getting drafted and going pro here in a short amount of time. I think with any coaching change, where the change came because you weren't doing enough winning, you could expect lots of turnover. You don't get too invested in lots of players returning to the roster, but there are some currently, and again, this is very as of this moment, these things can change. Not in the portal players I'd be excited to see come back from the hitters, Blake Fields and Jackson Lalima, and from the pitchers, Richie Roman, Caleb Kimball, Kendall Hoffman, and Caden Cooper. By no means was this past season's pitching staff rock solid, but it had enough promising younger guys. I mean, all the pitchers I just named there, except for Roman, were either a freshman or a sophomore, that if you retain a decent number of those guys just mentioned, I mean, you're far from a complete roster at this point. You still have a lot to add from a quality and depth standpoint. Still wouldn't mind seeing what a guy with a good track record of development like Will Davis can do with those players. We also saw yesterday, I believe, one of his players at Lamar, a guy that we specifically name checked last week when we talked about the hiring becoming official. Jake Wagner committed to the Cougs. He led the Cardinals in average, was 341 for the season, was also an all Southland tournament selection. So excited to see him hopefully join what will be a large portal class. Bobby, thoughts on these latest Cougar developments?
Yeah, I think overall you expect to see a lot of roster turnover when you get a new coaching staff. So not surprised by anything really that you see with any of these developments. It's kind of funny whenever there's a new coaching staff in any sport, soccer. We're about to see it with golf, tennis. When you see somebody enter the portal, I don't know why, but I'm very rarely disappointed when I see somebody entering the portal, because I just kind of expect everyone to leave. Like, I know that's a terrible way to kind of think about it, but I'm like, oh yeah, they left. Yeah,
it's the right way to think about it, but anyone who stays is a nice bonus.
It'd be like, yeah, I mean, I guess I would rather have that guy, but I also believe that the coaching staff has probably had some conversations, and has told players, hey man, I don't know how much we're going to use you. I'm bringing this guy over from Lamar. I'm bringing Wagner over from Lamar. You're probably not going to be playing for me much next year.
And Will Davis will be starting his work as the Cougar baseball coach this week, as Lamar went over to in the College Station Regional on that opening weekend of the NCAA baseball championship, but not without positives. The Cardinals did lead for a good chunk of their Friday opener against A&M. The guy you name checked, or one of the guys you name checked when we talked about Davis and Lamar last week after his hiring became official, Chris Olivier, went 6 innings and allowed 3 runs on the mound. Just kind of saw the Cards run out of pitching late against the host Aggies playing at home. We'll say, Bobby, the Aggies got one of the most insanely bad hit-by-pitch calls you'll see at a critical moment when they're rallying early. I'm going to send you the link now so you can live react.
I've seen it.
I've seen it. Insane call.
It's an insane call.
It's so bounced before it hit his foot.
Correct.
And baseball has review now. I mean,
yes.
not saying A&M can't or wouldn't have found some other way to win this game, but for one of those fan bases that's one of the most persecuted, if only this had happened kinds of groups, hard to argue the Aggies didn't get a little break against Lamar there.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on what Will Davis and his staff are doing to build next year's Cougar baseball team, and we'll talk about it here as it becomes newsworthy.
Absolutely.
All right, Bobby, we did it. Got this early June episode done. Take us home.
All right, well, that is it for this week's episode of the Scott and Holman podcast. If you are still listening to us ramble on, we appreciate it so much. We love having you. If you have any feedback for us, you can find us on social media, on Twitter at SH Podcast. You can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. You can email us if that's more your jam at shpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to hear that premium basketball episode, or you want to throw some of your hard-earned money at two guys who talk Cougar sports, we would love to. We'd love to have you on board for that. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/SH Podcast. Sam, I think I covered it all, buddy. What do we always say?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs! Let's go!